Suddenly, a loud screech echoed through the trees. A creature tall, thin, with 6 glowing eyes stepped out from behind a boulder. It was native to Avara, and not friendly. Its claws scraped the dirt, and its body shimmered with heat. Tomel froze. Rhea's eyes narrowed. Do not move. The creature sniffed the air and crept closer. Very slowly. Rhea reached into a small pouch on her belt and pulled out a silver sphere. She clicked it once. A sharp sound burst from it, high and loud. The creature screamed and turned, running back into the woods. Tomel let out a breath. Remind me never to make you angry. You would not survive, she said, a small smile on her face. Later that day, they found shelter in the hollow of a large fallen tree. It was safe, quiet, and dry inside. Tomel set Rhea down and stretched his sore back. We're maybe one day from the nearest outpost, he said, looking at his map. If we move early tomorrow, we can reach it. Rhea leaned against the wood, watching him. You are different, she said. Tomel looked up. Good different or bad different? Strange, but kind. On my world, no one carries another unless they are bound by blood or vow. I guess I didn't read that rule, he said. She tilted her head. Do humans not believe in old traditions? Some do. But I believe in people. Does it matter where they're from? There was a pause. The wind blew gently outside. For a moment, it felt like they weren't on a battlefield, but in some peaceful forest. Rhea spoke softly. You have done more for me than I can repay. You don't need to repay anything. Tomel said, just stay alive. That's enough. As night fell, the fire in the distance died down. Tomel sat near the opening of the tree, keeping watch as always. Rhea rested behind him, her breathing calm. Through mud, flame, and fear, something unspoken had begun to grow between them. Neither said the words, not yet, but in the heart of a broken world. To strangers from different stars had become something more than just allies. The jungle was quiet in the early morning. A gentle mist moved between the trees, and birds called out in soft, slow songs. Tomel woke before the sun, his back stiff from sleeping on roots. He turned his head and looked at Rhea. She was still asleep, her head resting against the hollow tree wall, her feathers slightly ruffled. She looked peaceful, so different from the warrior he had seen in meetings, calm, fierce, and proud. Now, she was injured, depending on someone else. But even in this moment of weakness, she held a quiet strength. Tomel rubbed his eyes, sat up, and pulled out a small metal device from his pocket. He tapped the screen. Still no signal. The jungle's thick air made communication hard, but he had seen a beacon tower on the map. If they could reach it, he could send a message to the Alliance. He started boiling some leaves for water. The warmth and smell helped push away the cold air. A soft voice broke the silence. You did not leave. Tomel looked up. Rhea was watching him. Of course not, he said. Why would I leave? Many would, she said, and my peoples. Stories, only a life bonded would carry another through fire. Tomel smiled. You keep saying that word life bonded. What does it really mean? Rhea sat up slowly, wincing from the pain in her leg. It is but deep vow, an old tradition. Before our people had armies and rules, we had bonds. If one carried another through danger without being told to, it meant they had chosen that soul as their closest one. Tomel blinked. Closest. One, like a friend. She shook her head. More than a friend. Not just a soldier or a partner. A heart-tied one. A spouse. Tomel nearly dropped the hot cup in his hand. Wait, are you saying carrying someone like I did means marriage? Rhea did not smile, but her eyes showed quiet amusement. In old times, yes. Tomel stared at her, then laughed nervously. Well, that's going to be hard to explain at home. Rhea looked down. It is a forgotten law. Most do not follow it now, but I remember the stories my grandmother told me. Tomel looked into the fire. The idea of someone thinking he had promised marriage by carrying them was strange to him. But he respected the old ways, and deep inside, he couldn't deny that the journey had changed something. They were no longer strangers. He looked back at her. Well, for now, let's just focus on getting out alive. We can talk about weddings later. Rhea gave a soft nod. Agreed. After eating, they prepared to move. Tomal helped her onto his back once more. His body ached, but he had grown used to the weight, and even more to her quiet presence. They followed a narrow path through the forest. Strange plants grew along the sides, and small glowing insects danced in the air. At times, Rhea would whisper about the plants. She knew which ones healed and which ones stung. Tomal listened closely. He liked hearing her voice. It was calm and strong, like music played low dot around midday. They reached a clearing. In the middle stood a broken stone structure, covered in moss and vines. It looked ancient, with carvings across its surface. We should rest here, Tomal said, setting Rhea down on a flat stone. She looked around slowly, her eyes widening. This place, it is Ural. You've seen this before? Tomal asked. She nodded. Long ago, before the stars, before ships. In war, our people built temples like this. This one is very old. Tomal ran his hand across the stone. The carvings showed feathered figures, some flying, others standing close together, hand to hand. Wing to wing, Rhea spoke softly. These show the bond ceremony. Two souls choosing each other before fire, water, and sky. Tomal looked at her. Do you believe in that still? Rhea was quiet for a moment. I do not know, but being carried through fire and sky. It feels like something more than chance. Tomal sat beside her. Back home, we don't have bond rituals like this, but we have stories too, of people who stood by each other no matter what, sometimes even before they knew it was love. The wind passed gently through the trees. For a while, they said nothing more, just sat side by side in the old ruin of a forgotten temple. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. Tomal stood up, alert. Do you hear that? Rhea nodded. Yes, a power source. Tomal moved to the back of the ruin and pushed aside some vines. Behind them was a hidden panel, blinking faintly. It's a relay point, Tomal said. Someone built this into the ruins. Maybe an old Alliance team. He tapped a few buttons. The signal was weak, but enough to send a short message. This is Private Tomal, Human Alliance. I'm alive. I have an injured Ural officer with me. Coordinates uploading. Requesting pickup. He waited. The signal blinked once. Message sent. Tomal returned to Rhea with a hopeful look. Help might be on the way. Rhea nodded. But her eyes were still on the carvings. If help comes, will you go back to your world? Tomal looked at her for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe. But I'm not in a hurry anymore. She gave him a small, soft smile. Neither am I. As the sun began to lower, the carvings on the wall lit up in the golden light. Two figures stood side by side in stone, one with wings, the other with bare arms. Holding each other gently, Tomal and Rhea sat near them, quiet, thoughtful dot in the middle of a forgotten jungle. Beside ancient stone and silent memories, something new was growing. Not just survival, not just duty, but trust, and maybe something deeper. The echoes of the past whispered through the trees dot, and the future waited just beyond them. The jungle air grew warmer as the sun climbed higher. Tomal stood near the stone panel in the ruined temple, checking the signal every few minutes, each time. The same small light blink message sent, no reply yet. Rhea rested in the shade, her back against the mossy stone wall. Her eyes were half closed, but her mind was awake. She listened to the birds and the breeze, her senses alert, even in pain. How long do you think it will take? She asked out to Mel, glanced over. If they got the message, maybe a few hours. Maybe less, depends if they're close. Rhea looked up at the sky through the broken ceiling. I do not trust silence. Tomal smiled a little. Neither do I. But sometimes silence means they're coming. He sat beside her, tired from walking, from worry, from carrying weight that was more than just physical. But still, he was calm. In the last few days, everything had changed. Not just the war, not just the jungle, but something inside him. He looked at Rhea and asked, What were you doing before the attack? She turned to him, slowly. I was guarding the lower camps, teaching younger ones how to fly through the mist layer. I had not seen battle in 2 cycles. Tomal raised his eyebrows. So you're a teacher too? Rhea nodded. And you? I was fixing ships, Tomo replied with a half smile. Not flying them, just fixing parts that others broke. Until the call came, they sat in silence for a while, thinking of how their lives had shifted. How or pushed people who never wanted to fight into places they never expected to be. Suddenly, a loud roar filled the sky. Tomo stood quickly and looked up. A black dot was growing larger above the treetops, moving fast, cutting through the clouds. At last, he said, his heart jumping. Rescue ship. But Rhea narrowed her eyes. No. Look again. The ship came closer, and now Tomo saw it. It wasn't Alliance blue. It was black and red with jagged edges and glowing lines. Along its wings, his heart sank. It's not one of ours. Rhea pushed herself upright, leaning against the stone. That is a scavenger ship. The enemy searches for survivors. Tomo helped her behind a stone wall just as the ship passed overhead. The noise shook the ground. Red beams scanned the forest, searching. We need to move, Tomo whispered. They'll land nearby. He helped Rhea onto his back again. She winced but said nothing. Tomo ran from the ruins, keeping low, moving through thick trees. Behind them, the scavenger ship circled once more, then dropped into the trees with a deep thud. Tomo heard the sound of metal hatches opening and boots hitting the ground. They've landed, he whispered. Rhea gripped his shoulder. If they find us, they will not leave us breathing. He didn't answer. He just moved faster. The jungle path was rough and steep. Vines hung low, and broken roots tried to catch his feet. But Tomo kept moving. He wasn't strong like soldiers, but his will was harder than steel. He would carry her through fire again if he had to. After 20 minutes of climbing, they reached a narrow ridge. Below them was a wide river. Beyond it, on the far side, stood an old outpost tower, broken, but still tall. Tomo pointed. That must be the relay tower I saw on the map. If that one still works, we can boost the signal. Rhea nodded. Go. He made his way down the ridge slowly. The ground was slippery, and the jungle below was thicker. But he kept going, careful not to make noise. Halfway down, a branch snapped to his left. Tomo froze. Two shapes appeared in the tree, soldiers in dark armor, scanning the area. They were part of the scavenger team, armed with energy rifles and scanning helmets. Tomo ducked low behind a rock, breathing quietly. Rhea's hand touched his chest gently. Wait, she whispered. I will distract. Tomo shook his head quickly. No, not again. But she had already taken a small disc from her belt. It was cracked, but still usable. She clicked it, and it made a sharp sound before flying off into the jungle. It bounced off a tree and dropped into a bush, where it lit up bright blue. The soldiers turned. One of them barked a command and ran toward the noise. The other followed. Tomo didn't wait. He ran, holding Rhea tightly, moving through the trees and heading for the river. He could hear the soldiers in the distance, moving away from them. At the river bank, he stopped to catch his breath. The water was wide but not fast, and he saw something that gave him hope. An old rope bridge, still standing. He rushed to it, testing the ropes. They were worn, but still strong enough. I'll get us across, he said. Step by step, he crossed the bridge, holding tight to the ropes. The wood creaked, but it held. The wind swayed them slightly, and the drop below was deep. Rhea closed her eyes and held onto him. On the other side, they climbed a hill toward the broken tower. The top was bent, but the relay dish was still in place. Tomo kicked open the door and carried her inside. The control panel was covered in dust. He wiped it clean, found the power core, and pressed the restart button. A hum filled the room. Rhea watched from where she sat on the floor. Her voice was soft. You never stop. Tomo glanced back at her. No one left behind. That's the rule. The screen blinked green. Signal boost active. Tomo smiled and tapped the comms. This is Private Tomo, located at Outpost Tower 7. Signal boosted. Still carrying one injured Ural officer. Please respond. There was silence, then a voice. Tomo, this is command. We see you. Rescue team inbound. Hold your position. Tomo laughed out loud. Relief filled his chest. Rhea looked at him, her eyes bright. You did it? He walked to her and sat down. We did it, outside. The sun had started to set. The jungle below glowed with gold and green, and far above, a small dot in the sky grew brighter. A real rescue ship, finally coming. But Tomo wasn't thinking about just rescue. He looked at the year-old warrior beside him, strong, kind, proud, and realized something deeper had begun. Not because of war, not because of duty, but because of the quiet hours shared in fire and rain. The glow of the rescue ship filled the evening sky like a bright star descending through the trees. Tomo and Rhea stood at the top of the old tower, watching the ship's landing gear unfold slowly. Making a soft thud against the uneven ground, Tomo tightened the strap across Rhea's back, his heart beating fast. After days of running, hiding, and fighting just to survive, rescue was finally here. But something deeper inside him pulled at his thoughts, something he had not yet fully understood. The ship's hatch opened, and two figures stepped out, soldiers in clean, shining armor, holding scanners and medical kits. They moved quickly toward the tower. Private Tomo. One called. Tomo stepped forward. Yes, that's me. The soldiers looked at Rhea carefully, their expressions serious. We've been sent to evacuate both of you. Injured officer first. Tomo nodded and gently lowered Rhea to the ground. She winced but managed a small smile. Let's get you checked out, one soldier said softly. The medical team lifted Rhea carefully onto a stretcher. She looked back at Tomo. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything. Tomo smiled. You don't need to thank me. As they started down the hill toward the ship, Tomo's mind raced. This moment should have felt like relief and joy, but his heart felt heavy. One soldier walked beside him. How did you survive out here alone? Tomo shrugged. We had to. I carried her. The soldier raised an eyebrow. That's not easy. No, Tomo agreed. Not easy at all. The ship's interior was bright and clean. Medical machines beeped softly. Rhea was placed on a comfortable bed, and the medics quickly began checking her wounds. Tomo sat nearby, watching, feeling useless but glad she was safe. After a while, a doctor approached him. She's stable. The burns and bruises will heal. She's lucky you found her when you did. Tomo nodded. Thank you. The doctor looked at him kindly. You saved her life. Tomo looked away. I just did what I could. Rhea opened her eyes and saw Tomo sitting there. She smiled weakly. You are still here. I'm not going anywhere, Tomo said softly. They spent the night on the ship as it flew away from Avara. The stars outside were bright and cold, and Tomo stared out the window, thinking about what had happened. Rhea reached out a trembling hand and touched his arm. Why do you stay with me? She asked quietly. Tomo turned and looked at her. Because I promised to carry you, and because I want to. Her eyes searched his face. Even though you do not understand our bond? He shook his head. Maybe I don't understand everything yet, but I know this much: I care about you. She smiled, a soft light in her tired eyes. Then I will teach you. The ship's sun was steady, a quiet comfort in the darkness. In the days that followed, Tomo helped Rhea recover. He brought her water, told stories from Earth, and listened to her speak of year-old traditions. Slowly, the old laws and customs became clearer to him. The bond she spoke of was not just a promise, it was a way to protect, to care deeply, to be there no matter what. One evening, Rhea took Tomo's hand. In my culture, a bond is sealed by a promise. It is a vow to stand together, even if the world falls apart. Tomo looked into her eyes. I want to make that promise. Rhea's smile grew brighter. You do. I do. They sat quietly, the weight of words filling the small room. Then, we are no longer just survivor and carrier, Rhea said softly. We are life bonded. Tomo's heart felt lighter than it had in days. Life bonded. The ship's stars blurred past the windows as the journey continued. But for the first time, Tomo felt sure of something. No matter where the future took them, he and Rhea were connected. The rescue was only the beginning. The rescue ship hummed softly as it glided through the quiet space between stars. Tomo sat beside Rhea, watching her recover steadily. The bruises on her skin were fading, and the pain in her leg was less sharp each day. Yet, despite her healing body, the real recovery was happening slowly in their hearts. The command center announced their arrival soon. The Alliance base was a large space station orbiting Avara, home to many different species working together. Tomal had never seen anything so big or bright. Lights blinked everywhere, and ships of all shapes flew in and out like busy birds. When the ship docked, a group of officers greeted them. They were kind but curious, especially about Rhea. Tomal noticed whispers and sideways looks. It was clear the Alliance did not fully trust Ural officers anymore, especially after the recent war. But Rhea held her head high. She was proud and strong, even in weakness. Tomal helped her off the ship and into the medbay. Doctors checked her again and gave her new clothes, simple but clean. Tomal looked at her, feeling a strange mix of pride and protectiveness. She was no longer just the fierce warrior from the jungle. Now she was fragile in a new way. Later, in a quiet room, Rhea looked at Tomal. The Alliance will question me. They may not accept me. Tomal shook his head. You don't have to prove anything to them. You are strong because you survived. Rhea smiled faintly. Strength is not always seen. Tomal nodded. I know, but I see it. Days passed. Tomal was given orders to return to Earth soon. The thought of leaving Rhea behind made his chest tighten. One evening, Rhea spoke quietly. You must decide. Your home calls. Tomal looked at her, conflicted. I want to go, but I don't want to leave you. Rhea reached for his hand. Then, stay. We can face the future together. Life bonded means sharing life, not just survival. Tomal's heart beat faster. You mean, you want me to stay? Yes, she said simply. Tomal thought about all he had learned from her about courage, honor, and quiet loyalty. He had never imagined his life would change like this. Yet here, far from home, with a strange warrior at his side, he felt a new purpose. I will stay, he said firmly. Rhea smiled, and for the first time in many days, Tomal saw hope in her eyes. But the peace was short. The base alarms blared suddenly, echoing through the halls. Lights flashed red. Security breach, a voice shouted. Tomal grabbed Rhea's arm. What's happening? We are under attack, she said, rising despite her weakness. Enemy ships approaching fast. Tomal felt his old fear rush back. He wasn't a soldier, just a mechanic. But now, he had a reason to fight. They ran toward the command center. Outside the windows, dark ships with red markings filled the sky. The scavenger fleet had found them again. Soldiers rushed past with weapons. Rhea stood tall despite the pain. We must help, she said. Tomal nodded. Together, the base went into defense mode. Laser turrets activated, and ships scrambled to meet the attackers. Tomal and Rhea joined a small group assigned to protect the medbay. The enemy ships fired with deadly accuracy, breaking through shields. Explosions shook the station. Tomal held his ground, working with others to repair damaged panels and keep power flowing. Rhea moved beside him, calm and precise, directing troops and helping the wounded die. At one point, a blast knocked Tomal off his feet. Pain shot through his arm. He gritted his teeth and stood again, clutching his side. Rhea caught his eye. Don't give up. He smiled weakly. Never. Together, they fought side by side. Tomal's hands moved faster than before, fixing broken systems under fire. Rhea's voice was steady, rallying soldiers and saving lives. The battle raged for hours. Slowly, the Alliance pushed back the scavengers. The enemy ships retreated into the dark. When the alarms finally stopped, silence filled the station. Tomal looked at Rhea, both of them exhausted but alive. You fought well, he said. She nodded. So did you? Tomal took her hand gently. I'm glad I stayed. Rhea squeezed his hand. So am I life bonded. They stood together, tired but unbroken. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Yet Tomal and Rhea knew one thing. No matter what came next, they would face it as one. The station's lights returned to normal. Red alarms stopped blinking, and the deep hum of power systems settled into a steady rhythm. Outside the wide glass windows, the stars once again shone calmly. The danger had passed for now. Tomel sat beside Rhea in the medical wing, both of them wrapped in clean blankets, resting after the long fight. His arm was bandaged, and a dull ache pulsed through his shoulder. Rhea's leg had been reinforced with healing foam, and she now walked with a cane, though she tried not to use it much. Still trying to walk without help? Tomel teased, a soft smile on his lips. Rhea raised her chin slightly. I walk with pride, even if it hurts. Tomel chuckled. I know. I've seen you walk through fire. She looked at him with warmth in her eyes. And you carried me through it. Their bond, once unspoken and quiet, was now something clear and shared. Others in the Alliance had started to notice. They didn't understand at first. Some even questioned it. One officer, a tall woman with silver eyes, had asked Tomel, the day after the battle, why stay? You're not one of them. Earth is waiting. Tomel had answered simply, I don't follow planets. I follow the person who carried my heart. Now, the two sat together, healing not only from their wounds, but from the scars left by war and fear. A few days later, the commander of the station invited them to a formal meeting. Tomel helped Rhea dress in the long, deep blue robe of the Ural elders. It looked strange on her at first, more ceremonial than the armor she used to wear, but she carried it with strength. Tomel wore the simple gray uniform of the Alliance. Engineers, it had never meant much to him before. Now, standing beside Rhea, it felt like a new skin. The command room was full of humans and non-humans alike. Eyes turned as they entered, some with curiosity, some with quiet respect. The commander stood. You'd have become quite the symbol, she said. Tomel and Rhea stood straight, silent. You risked everything not only to survive, but to protect one another, the commander continued. That kind of loyalty matters more than titles. Tomel nodded. We didn't choose war, but we chose each other. The room was still. Then Rhea stepped forward. In the ways of my people, when two souls carry each other through fire and storm, they are called life-bonded. It is not about name or species. It is about promise. There were no more questions. After that, later that night, on a quiet balcony overlooking the stars, Tomel and Rhea stood alone. The station moved gently, rotating to keep balance, but the moment between them was still. You miss Earth? Rhea asked softly. Tomel leaned on the railing, thinking. Sometimes. The smell of trees, the sound of rain, my sister's cooking. Rhea smiled. Then one day, we'll go. Together. He turned to her. You would come to Earth? I would go anywhere, she replied, if your hand is in mine. Tomel looked out at the stars. Funny, I never imagined any of this. A war, a jungle, a warrior with wings. She smiled. And I never imagined a human carrying me for ours, refusing to leave me behind. They stood quietly again. Then Rhea spoke. In my world, we have a ritual, a simple one. When to choose. To walk through life together, we place our hands over each other's hearts and speak the words. Tomel looked at her. What words? Rhea reached out and placed her hand over his chest. I see you, and I walk beside you. Tomel's heart thudded under her hand. He took her hand in both of his and placed one over her heart. I see you, and I walk beside you. They held the moment, both understanding what it meant. Not a ceremony, not a law, but a truth they both felt. They had saved each other in more ways than one. From then on, they lived aboard the station, working together. Rhea trained new Alliance scouts in jungle survival and negotiation. Tomel built machines that could carry both human and Ural passengers through dangerous places. Side by side, they were more than just survivors. They were builders of peace. Other soldiers came to them, curious, young ones, scared of war and unsure of the future. Rhea told them stories of ancient Ural traditions. Tomel showed them how even a mechanic could change the course of someone's life. News of their bond spread, not just as a story of war, but as a story of hope. One day, many months later, they received an invitation from Earth. The message read, You are welcome, both of you. There is space for warriors and builders alike. Tomel looked at Rhea. Want to see the trees I told you about? Rhea nodded. And the rain, and your sister's cooking. He laughed. She'll ask questions. She can ask, Rhea said proudly. I will tell her, your brother is brave. He carried me when I could not walk, and I carried him when he had no reason to hope. Tomo looked at her with quiet love in his eyes. We carried each other. She nodded. We always will, as their ship prepared to leave the station. Tomo stood by the window, watching the stars shift again. But this time, he was not afraid of the unknown. He had chosen his path, and beside him stood the one who had chosen him in return.